Good morning, everyone. Welcome to New Thought Northern Colorado Center for Spiritual Living. So happy you are all with us today. I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July celebration. We come together every Sunday morning to experience and express all the love we can possibly hold, to practice radical acceptance and inclusion, and to connect with one another and with spirit. NTNC continues to be a beacon of personal and planetary transformation in Northern Colorado and beyond. We are a powerful spiritual community lovingly committed to a world of acceptance, compassion, peace, and joy. Settle back and go within as we begin with an opening song and prayer.
Blessed day, I am thankful, grateful heart, I am whole. Glory be to the power of this mind that I know. Soulful praise to the wonder, freedom, sing a joyful song, calling love to the center, lifting all is one. I'll sing it now, so it is anything I dream. It is singing now, so it is. Think bigger now, so it is. I'm a holding this vision of peace, knowing a world of harmony, calling love to the center, lifting all. We are free. Blessed day, I am thankful, grateful heart, I am whole. Glory be to the power of this mind that I know. Soulful praise to the wonder, freedom, sing a joyful song, calling love to the center, lifting all is one. I'll sing it now, so it is anything I dream. It is singing now, so it is. Think bigger now, so it is. I'm a holding this vision of peace, knowing a world of harmony, calling love to the center, lifting all. We are free, calling love to the center, lifting all. We are free.
Thank you, Jimmy. So please join me in prayer. Just settling into this space, this time, I'm knowing that wherever we are, in our individual homes, across Northern Colorado, across the United States and the world, I am knowing that we are all connected. We are connected as one heart tribe. We are connected in heart and mind and being, for we are one. And I am knowing that that connection carries us through this morning and through all the days ahead. That love and that light that is spirit, that is the beauty and grace that is God, surrounds us this morning. It moves so beautifully and so magnificently through Reverend Jenny and Reverend Barb as they speak about the topic free at last, free at last. And I'm knowing that that presence and that power of God surrounds and holds and uplifts our musicians as they inspire us with their beautiful music. And I'm knowing that each of us walk away today with an insight, with a revelation, with something that we can take with us throughout the rest of the day and week that inspires us and moves us in our lives. And so with that, I give great thanks. I give great thanks for all that is unfolding, knowing the absolute perfection that it is, that God is. And so I just let this go. I allow it to be. And I'm knowing that blessings just rain down upon each and every one of us in this moment and in every moment. Whatever we are holding in our heart, whatever challenge we are holding, that light and love of God, the blessings of the divine spirit is surrounding and holding each one of us, connecting us one heart to another, now and always. And so it is. Amen.
Free at last, free at last, free from the world and all its sins. Free at last, free at last. I've been to the top of the mountain. Hatred had me bound, had me tied down, had me turned around, couldn't find my way. Then you walked with me and you set my spirit free, took me and my family down that long highway. Free at last, free at last, free from the world and all its sins. Free at last, free at last. I've been to the top of the mountain. I will never forget when the voices call. I will never forget how the night did fall. I will never forget how you rose to the call. You lived and loved and sang and were a guide for us all. Free at last, free at last, free from the world and all its sins. Free at last, free at last. I've been to the top of the mountain. Free at last, free at last, free from the world and all its sins. Free at last, free at last. I've been to the top of the mountain.
Thanks, Julie. That was lovely. What a great song. So just want to welcome you to our service this morning again, and welcome to a conversation with myself and Reverend Barbara. We are going to start addressing this month's topic, this month's theme, which is the theme of Unchained Spirituality that's in our 2020 spiritual journals. And, you know, with all that's going on in our country right now, especially around the issues brought on by systemic racism, many of the ministers in our movement were a little bit concerned about the title of this month's theme. And so I wanted to address that because I thought that some of you who are following along in our spiritual journals might have been triggered by that too. But I was really glad to see in our ministers' listserv emails an email from one of our ministers who is a young gay Black man. And he had this to say. He said, "I find Science of Mind and Spirit to be an unchained spirituality where all that I am is the divine incarnating itself freely, audaciously, and magnificently is celebrated, honored, and encouraged. It is a teaching that declares that we believe that the ultimate goal of life to be a complete freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. And I find this to be a perfect opportunity to stand boldly out in front of the leading edge of religion and spirituality and speak about what it means for our spirituality and any spirituality that sets the captive mind free. Free from shame, free from guilt, racism, sexism, ableism, etc." So I'd like to welcome Reverend Barb to the room. And so, you know, Barb, when you heard about this this title, how did that resonate with you?
Well, at first I had this kind of reaction, like, talking about chained might not be good right now in this time of really awareness about racial inequality and all that stuff. And then, I also read Reverend Raymond's post, and it gave me a sigh of relief because I had a real call to talk about feeling unchained. I mean, discovering science of mind was a freedom to me. It created a place of an exploration of spirituality that was not chained to guilt, that was not chained to shame, that was not chained, but was allowed me to live in a place where that I could co-create.
Mm-hmm.
And there's such a freedom in that. There's a great responsibility in that, but there's such a freedom in that, like we've talked a lot about that space of responsibility, freedom.
Right.
But
well, and that's kind of what we're talking about in this whole conversation this morning, isn't it? It's about freedom, about unchained spirituality, about freedom, about and our responsibility and our call to action through that, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I know for me that when I first heard the term unchained spirituality, it didn't really strike me immediately as a triggering word. To me, it just brought back, there's a music genre known as Negro spirituals. And it just took me right into those old Negro spiritual songs, and how for those people in our country who were enslaved against their will for so long, that it really gave them a sense that their so-called masters might enslave their bodies, but they couldn't enslave their mind or their soul or their divine beingness. And so to me, it was really the epitome of really what spiritual freedom is. And it gave me a sense of really how we look to our own spirituality to learn about and experience freedom through that journey in our own spirituality. It kind of also brought up for me, I have younger kids, and well, not younger, to me, they're young, they're in their mid-20s, but, frequently I hear younger people use that term, something's off the chain, which to me means something's really awesome. So I loved that idea that really unchained spirituality is something that is completely awesome. It's completely unbound. And through that, we can really just soar as high as we can possibly take our own spiritual journey. So I like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing limiting except that what our imagination, there's nothing limits of that except our imagination. And this idea of interdependence, a lot of folks are calling Independence Day, Interdependence Day. Like a recognition, and for some people that I want to clear that up a little bit, because like some people think of interdependence as being dependent upon, and I don't think that's it at all. I don't think interdependence means that I depend on people I don't even know for my well-being. Except there's this interdependence idea, and I thought I read this thing actually just yesterday that sort of really illustrated this for me. In a really clear way. Like, we have the freedom to drive. Those of us that are over 16 have we have driver's license. There's some, but we have a freedom to get in a car and get on a freeway. But interdependence means that we agree to a set of rules. Like, I could be free in my freedom, I could drive 120 miles an hour and have a lot of fun doing that. But that doesn't really work for everybody. And so we have these agreed upon set of rules, which are interdependent, so that we can get on a freeway full of other cars and have a sense of how other things are going to go and how people are going to weave in and out, so that we can all remain not clobbered in our cars. And I don't want to say that, like, we should do everything, we should give up freedom to be safe. we should be able to land in a middle place that says, here's a container for our actions and activities that are interdependent upon one another, and that those systems should work for everyone. So regardless of color, you should be able to get on the freeway, and you should be able to get on the freeway and expect the same set of rules, for instance. So, Martin Luther King Jr. wrote in his letter from a Birmingham jail. So while he was in jail, he wrote, in a real sense, all life is interrelated. All are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be.
So, yeah, so interdependence really is not dependent upon, its cooperation with.
Right.
That we cooperate with one another to create a world that, I'm getting tired of this, the world that works for everyone.
So I know it seems trite, doesn't it?
Talk, but
that's what we want.
But a world where at least we have agreed upon rules that everyone acts responsibly. There is such every teenager learns this as they move from childhood and especially through their teen years, that freedom requires responsibility, and the more freedom that you want, the more responsibility you have to take for your actions, your behavior, your words, and how you act in the world. Because we have this level of spiritual freedom, which our divine beingness is always free. But when we bring that down to a human experience, that translates into taking that spiritual freedom and being responsible with it in a way that creates that fosters goodness in the world, that fosters peace, that fosters a world where we can all live peacefully, even when and if we differ in our theology, our ideology, our philosophy, our worldview, our politics, So I think that's, to me, that's kind of the meaning of or where responsibility comes in with freedom.
Yeah, see, and I think that we become in this idea of interdependence, and in this idea of real freedom. I don't think that we can experience our own spiritual oneness. We cannot get to a place of really understanding oneness. We're really experiencing that while other people are kept from that. And it's really easy to say, well, everybody has that possibility. And yes, I would say everybody has that potential. Not everybody has that clear possibility and path to. And I don't think that we can evolve in another evolutionary step as a species of people until we can sort of understand that. And I think, and this is very U.S. centric, I have to say, this is a very U.S. centric conversation, because Europe's 70 years ahead of us, at least. And part of that, I think, I could get into a whole history thing on that, but I won't, because I want to get back to the spiritual nature of this idea of freedom. We are so free to co-create. We have this, and this is part of what we teach. And part of what I hope gets out into the world everywhere is that we are free to co-create anything that we can imagine, as long as we're not driving 120 miles an hour and pushing everybody else off the road to do that.
Right. Yeah. Because really, freedom, it doesn't mean that we really get to do whatever we want. There was a great quote that I saw recently that said, maybe we think of freedom not as the right to do as we please, but as the opportunity to do what is right. And, we can argue about what is right because a lot of people want to make what is right really what they desire. But but really what is right is living in that truth and bringing that spiritual truth of oneness and living from that place of oneness and using that sense of freedom in oneness here on our human experience.
And it all kind of comes back to love. I mean, oneness, love, it's hard to even differentiate between those things. Like,
Right.
it comes back to love. And if we are truly loving of all, then there becomes a desire to see opportunity for all and freedom for all.
Mm-hmm.
Not, you know, and I don't want to keep getting into the not. Like, it's such an, I don't know, such an interesting time to be talking about this. And, you know, I've always been a person who kind of had a thing about the 4th of July anyway, because I spent most of my life not actually having the rights of most citizens. And now I spend my life, you know, thinking that there's knowing and actually watching actions and activities in our government trying to take those rights away. So there's that set of freedoms, and then there's those internal ones, those heart ones. And so I guess that's the question for people today is like, what makes your heart feel free? And if our heart is loaded with guilt and shame, then it's not really free. And I don't think that once we, it's like spirituality. Like, once we know, we can't unknow.
Yeah.
You know, like, when you started in this kind of spiritual path, like, there's a point where you get to the place of, oh my God, I have to be responsible for my own life.
Right.
Can't I go back? Can't I go back to that old religion where the devil was responsible for everything that wasn't working, right?
Or just make God responsible too, you know?
Yeah.
We see on our news, our Facebook feed, you know, so a lot from, you know, this certain person who keeps trying to say, well, why isn't your God curing the coronavirus? And why isn't your God doing this? And why isn't your God doing that? And, you know, thinking that God is some magical being that takes care of everything. But
do you remember that moment though, when you went, oh crap. Now I can't unknow what I know, right?
Well, and that's, you know, it's the interesting thing too with this whole philosophy, because for many people, they come into this philosophy because they hear of it through another avenue where they think that, you know, oh, we just all preach that, you know, change your thinking, change your mind. And all of a sudden you get princes' palaces and parking places. And some of that works to a degree for those people on that level. But then you find out that, you know, if you really want this to work in your life, you have to take it to a deeper level. You have to do a deeper dive into what the real meanings and principles of this philosophy are and what they mean. So
Right.
you know, to me, that's the part where you get to that place and you go, well, crap, you know, now what do? Now I have to be responsible. Great. You know, and how many people leave the church when they figure that out, you know, because they're like, well, that's not the easy answer.
Yeah. And there is like this space and I think across, call it spiritualness right now. I just read this really big article about people that are falling into like this hole of conspiracy theory, you know, COVID's not real kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like this, well, if I really believe that I create everything in my experience and COVID is supposedly out there in the world, then we must be creating this and we wouldn't do that. So I'm just going to deny that COVID exists. Right. It's like a total whitewashing of responsibility and then the freedom to act like appropriately, like, so, you know, and part of that is it's that surface level thing of, if it's not easy and fun, then I'm just going to go away from it. It's, well, we've had this in church where somebody's like, well, I didn't like what you said last week, so I'm never coming back. Well, I'm like, I say 20 different things, you know, a day, like, to try it again, you might, or I didn't like, my favorite is, you know, I didn't like the music last week, so I'm never coming back. Well, like, that's just so, it's so surface level, not committed. And that's, I guess maybe that's the place where maybe it's commitment, not responsibility, or maybe it's both, you know. that to get to the place of oneness requires a commitment to practice, and a commitment to truth, and a commitment to sorting through the nonsense of our own nonsense and the nonsense of others.
Right.
I don't know. Lend in here. I
Um,
could go down this rabbit hole really far, and I should not.
okay. So do we want to wind it back a little? Anyway.
Oh, this is your talk, really. So
I think it's a conversation. So we have to take personal responsibility, and we have to make the commitment then to act upon what we know is a responsible way to be in the world, so that we can all experience that freedom. So, it comes back again to that oneness.
People used to say all the time, a rising tide floats all boats. That's like such an old thing, but we've kind of forgotten it.
We have, and maybe this is an American thing too, that, our commitment and our obsession, whatever, with the idea of freedom and independence, we take that to mean that we can do whatever we want and everybody else can just like it or lump it. And to try to think of a nice way to put that. But that's just really not the way the world works. So, so we come back to, really, what is freedom? What is freedom? How do we, and we have this idea again of spiritual freedom and then freedom in the human world. And sometimes I think it's hard for people to make that leap between what we talk about in this philosophy as spiritual principle and what we know is the truth in our spiritual principle, and how we make that part of our reality here.
Right, which is the movement towards, like, we know that the oneness thing, like, we know that love, let's use love because it's, I think, easier sometimes to grasp than oneness, because it's oneness, not sameness, so if love is like this highest spiritual ideal, we can sit in a place where we're like, oh, it's all love, la, 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 no matter what's going on out here in my life or in my checkbook or in my love life or in my inner being, all of it. We can just go, oh, it's all love. Yeah. Up here, I guess, in a way, there is love within all of it, because that's the truth of the universe. Mm-hmm. But if that is not what we're creating and experiencing, then we are out of alignment with that spiritual truth. And it's our work as spiritual people, as people who want to evolve in this upward and outward way, it is our work to look at the places that are not that and be willing to sit in the places that are not that and the discomfort of those places. Mm-hmm. And we do not like discomfort. We really don't. We will chocolate out our discomfort or whatever as much as we possibly can. Well, chocolate's mine, So we have to be willing to sit in the discomfort of the places that are not yet in total alignment with what we know is the truth. We don't whitewash what is with the truth. The truth is the ideal and the movement towards and the evolutionary impulsion. It's the thing that pulls us, the vision, the impulse. It's the inner thing that pulls us towards something greater. And when we're not willing to sit in the discomfort, we never get here. Right. The discomfort is part of what is our teacher. Yeah. I don't know. We just seem to be, we're wired that way. I don't know why. And maybe we won't always be. Maybe when we're closer to there, we'll get in a place where we can really see the contrast. But we have to be willing to sit in the contrast.
We do. And I think that that's, again, where we come back to that responsibility and commitment idea, and then to take action. And, I think for me, one of the great things about that movement toward oneness, that movement toward alignment with what I know to be my spiritual truth, and bringing that into my own life, is really, learning how to love myself for who I am. And I think that is such an issue for a lot of people, is really learning how to love all parts of themselves, their shadow side, their non-shadow side, and yes, so many people in this movement, and it, one of our tenets is to be joyous and to be happiness and to live that light being that we are. But that doesn't mean that we just bypass the shadow side. And so it's making that commitment to learning how to really love ourselves. And when we do that in alignment with this love being that's greater than we are, then we can start to bring that down and really learn how to love everyone else in a better way too.
Yeah, and while we're practicing loving ourselves, we also get to practice loving people that we completely disagree with.
Right.
Which right now is, it's not always easy all the time, but right now is super not easy, I would just say. And as a person who keeps getting caught up in the Facebook train wreck right now,
yeah,
and I have to sit in that discomfort. I have to just sit in the discomfort of all of it, in order to get through the noise and hear the voice of spirit.
Yeah.
If I'm really looking for the way forward, and this is interesting because this kind of lends into how we are going to move through COVID as a spiritual community as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is this, we have this opportunity to sit in the discomfort of not knowing. Right. And the only way, and this is a really hard one for me because I want to have the answer, I as a leader, I want to have the answer. I want to make it easy. Here's the silver platter. We have to sit in the discomfort of not knowing what's next, where we're going, and understand that we have created a container of love in the community that is not buildings and places and even meeting face to face, but here's this container of love. And if we can sit in the discomfort of not knowing, then we will hear the voice that says, what is the next evolution of spiritual community? What is the next evolution of the community of the United States? What is the next evolution of the community of humanity?
Yeah. And I think that's why the NTNC community, is so lucky because, the three of us ministers, you are definitely in that I want to know, and keep seeking for answers. And while I think Leah and I are also in that way, I think we are able to sit back a little and give this community the gift of being able to sit in the not knowing. And to really know that, this community is not bound by four walls. It's not bound by a location. This community is connected by our connection, by our heart connection, by our mind connection, by how much we stay in touch with each other, by how much we continue to practice this way of life, and how we do that with one another as well. We provide so many opportunities for people to maintain their connections in this community. And I am just always so thrilled to see the numbers of people who are doing that, who are participating in that.
Yeah, I read this. I have this quote that I know we're pretty close to wrapping up. So I get this blog every week called Commune, and it's co-musings from Commune, and this guy named Jeff writes it, and he wrote today, actually, in the end, there's both an irony and a beauty to the communal embrace of interdependence. A realization that our individual freedoms and the collective good are actually one and the same. And so here we are.
Here
one
we
and
are,
the same.
one and the same.
One and the same.
One and the same, living in the question, but knowing that our freedom is our responsibility, and how we act that responsibility in the world and make a commitment to acting it. The quote that I'd like to end with today, to kind of wrap this up, really speaks to our sitting in the disquieting places. This is a Franciscan blessing that says, "May God bless you with anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that you may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer pain, rejection, hunger, and war, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and to turn their pain to joy. And may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in the world, so that you can do what others claim to cannot be done, to bring justice and kindness to all of our children and the poor." Thanks for
Amen to that. Maybe all think big.
well,
Think big.
thanks for being here with me today. And I'm just going to know that, as Martin Luther King said in his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. So we're going to turn it over to our musicians to play us into our next song.
I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up.
Thank you, Jimmy. We are so grateful for your tithes and your offerings and your gifts. It allows us to continue to do all that we get to do each Sunday and in between. So thank you so much. And there's a number of ways that you can give, and those are going to be scrolling across the screen there in a moment. So you can certainly go to our website at newthoughtnoco.org. You can also text tithe if you prefer that, and you can see the number there. Or you can mail your gift to our office, and our address is there for you. So let's all place our hand on our heart with the intention of whatever we are giving, whatever we are sharing. And let's say our affirmation together. I live in an abundant universe that blesses and prospers my life. I give with gratitude, knowing God is my source. And so it is. So we have a few announcements that I just want to bring to your attention. First, I want to just say thank you. Thank you to our musicians, Jimmy. You're going to hear from Petter in a moment. And to Julie, thank you so much for sharing your light and your love and your incredible talent with all of us every Sunday. I want to thank folks on the back end that you don't see them, but they are there. Brooke and Erica, thank you both. You're amazing. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes that you all don't see. So I just want to thank them, because we literally could not do this service without both of them. So thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Erica. And thank you to Reverend Barb, and Reverend Jenny. Thank you for your inspiring dialogue. And also to our practitioners. Christine was holding us all in prayer today. Thank you, Christine, for doing that. All right, our annual meeting, a couple of announcements. Our annual meeting coming up on July 12th, and that's just enough opportunity to elect our new members to our core council, say goodbye to those who are transitioning off, to review our past year's accomplishments, and to also share plans for our future. So please join us for that. That'll be after service on the 12th at 11 a.m. And next thing, fun announcement here is my installation. So it's a strange word, but really what that means is a marriage. So it's a deeper commitment of me to you and from you to me. And I'm really excited about that. We're going to have special music and a special sacred ceremony that Reverend Barb and Jenny and I are planning. And so please participate, join us for that. We're going to do Facebook Live and Zoom. The reason we're doing Zoom, we're going back to Zoom for this, because we need your participation. And we want to hear you and we want to see you engage with us during that ceremony. So it's Friday, July 17th, and it's from 7 to 7:30 p.m. So mark your calendar for that. A special invitation is going to go out this week, so you will see that and hope to have you there. It's going to be a special time. And if you are curious about all the ways to engage with our community and you're not on our newsletter, then go ahead and email info.newthoughtnoco@gmail, and you will get on our newsletter. We send it out once a week, and you'll be up to date with all the cool stuff that we are doing. Thank you all for being here. Blessings to you. We're so grateful that you are here with us and that you're a part of our beloved community. Thank you all. We're now going to close out with the song from Petter, a peace song, and then our benediction. Blessings to all.
Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. God is our power, that is all we need. Let us walk with each other, perfect harmony. Yes, peace begins with me, and this is the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. Take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Yes, peace begins with me, and let it begin with me.
Thank you, Petter. So please join me in our benediction. May you be at peace. May your heart remain open. May you awaken to the light of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all beings. Remember that you are loved. Many blessings to you. Have a beautiful week. Bye, everyone.